Good morning, friends, and happy Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all excited for another daily creative challenge. We are on day number 7. I got it right this time. Welcome to Amit and Samuel Su-Young, who I believe won a guide subscription yesterday. We'll have more about that throughout the day. We have a lot of awesome people. If you're joining us live on Behance, behance.net/live, definitely let me know that you're here. Definitely let me know where you're from. I always love hearing that. We have Daniel and Anna and Igor. A lot of awesome people, a lot of awesome regulars. And we have a packed day for you. We're kicking off day 7 of the daily challenge right now here on Behance. And then we're gonna have a whole day of UI and UX. It's gonna be a fun time. We have a lot of great guests. We have Andrea Hawk is coming up with Daniel White, and then myself and Chris Cannon. And right after that, we have Kevin Lee and Johnny Vino is coming up after that around 1 o'clock. So it's gonna be a packed day. So let me hop over to my screen for a second. And here's the Daily Creative Challenge website, behance.net/daily creative challenge. And we're mixing things up these last 2 weeks. We're introducing Photoshop into the mix. And we really want to show designers how Photoshop can work with XD and how XD can work with Photoshop. Because what we found is that a lot of users are using Photoshop strictly for UI and UX. And introducing XD into the process allows you to really expand on that, breathe new life into your prototypes using repeat grids, responsive resize, prototyping, animation, things like that. So, and welcome Eric and Cletus and everyone else who's just joining us. So hopefully over the last week or so, you've picked up on some tips and tricks, especially if you're a Photoshop user who is looking to do something a little bit more with your stuff. So you'll notice that the register button is no longer there, but you now can join us live on Slack, and we're on Slack all day, every day. And right now we have 9,915 people. We have 2 days to get to 10,000. Let's do this. If you're not in Slack, join us in Slack. And right over here, I'm gonna be here at 8:30 a.m. every single morning, kicking off the new challenge. And you're gonna be creating a prototype using Photoshop and XD and making sure to share it with the keyword XD Daily Challenge. And you have until December 21st to submit them to Behance. Down here's a Slack again. And today, we're gonna be working with a mobile app dashboard that keeps track of screen time. You may have seen a lot of apps over the last year, including the ones from Apple and Instagram, who have kind of introduced this concept to help you better keep track of your screen time. I can't tell you how many times I've just picked up my phone, browsed Instagram for several hours, and then lost track of all of my day. So these kind of features help you better keep track of your time. So let me hop over to Photoshop. Boop. There we go. And this is what we're going to be working with. And we're going to be focusing on a few things, including repeat grids, animated interactions, and a little bit of advanced designing. So you might have a situation like this where you're designing in Photoshop. You have 2 or maybe even 3 different screens, one for today, one for week, one for month. And they're just very static. You have to repeat things all the time. And if you want to make changes to some of them, whether it be colors or images or symbols, you have to basically do that on every single artboard, which is a little bit of a pain. So I'm gonna be showing you how we can bring this into Adobe XD and really take it to new levels. But before I do that, let me hop back to my browser and let's take a look at some of the entries from yesterday. Because what we love doing is showcasing some of the cool work that came in from the previous day. And on Friday, in just 2 days, I'm gonna be looking at a lot of different entries from the past 2 weeks. So this one is from our good friend Maj. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And these are the musician pages that we created yesterday, and they're responsive. So he did a great job at showing 3 different versions, a desktop, a tablet, and a phone. Really nice imagery. He's kind of contained all of the concerts and the upcoming dates in this little container down here, which is definitely scrollable. The colors are looking really nice. Again, really nice imagery separating these 2 sections. And even the the mobile page and the tablet pages are looking really nice. He squeezed in the repeat grid so it's only 1 column or 2 columns. Nice stuff. If you're in the chat, let us know. We'd love to say hi. Next we have Samantha. We did something very similar. I love the colors that she used. They all kind of, you know, blend together really nicely. You have greens and blues. And the same concept, you know, on the tablet view, there's 2 columns. On the phone view, there's 1 column, and it looks really nice. There's even a little directions map at the top, and you could use an overlay, for an example, when you're animating this to bring up that map or slide it in from the right, and you can slide it right back in. Next, we have Aaron, who I believe we featured at some point in the past as well. Also love the colors, love the gradient, very, very slightly transparent, which is really nice on this button. And then there's some album artwork down here. Upcoming live events, very subtle shadow in the background, which looks nice. And then a gallery down here, and then a you know, call to action to join the community. Tablet and phone. And then finally we have Igor, who I believe is in the chat, and he's been featured a few times. He has some really nice, interesting ideas. This you know, kind of diagonal separator right here, blurred background, which you can do very easily in Adobe XD using an object blur. Really nice stuff. So good job, everyone. So I'm definitely looking forward on Friday to looking at even more work. So let me hop over to Finder right here, where I have the exact same Adobe Photoshop file that we're gonna be working on, that all of you have access to right now. I'm gonna drag this directly into Adobe XD, and if you are on Windows, what you would do, go up to the top, go to File, Open, and then you would find that PSD file, open it up, and start working. So, what are we gonna do for this one? I'm actually going to delete this artboard here, because we're gonna be working from a single artboard and then duplicating that over when it's in a good spot. We're gonna be doing a little bit of designing to start, to add some colors, to add some gradients, because I love gradients. 2018 seems to be the year of the crazy gradients, so we're gonna be doing that. Hey Anel, welcome. Always good to see you. So what I'm gonna be doing is, let's say in the background, I might want some sort of like a wavy shape. So I'm gonna grab my rectangle tool to the left, drag out a shape across my document, and I want it a little bit wavy. Let me just change the color just so I can see it. Turn off the border, and I'm simply going to double click on the border, and I can click right here to add a point. Now you're noticing if I drag this up or down, it's very sharp. But if I double click on this point, I actually get these little handles. It might be difficult to see on the stream. There they are. Little handles on the right and the left. And that will allow me to just drag this and create this cool little curve. Just like that. Nothing too crazy, but effective. And then in my layers panel, I can move this to the back and then position this, let's say right about here. So I have this nice little wavy effect going on in the background. And then I might want to fill that with a gradient. I could go over here to my fill section, change to, let's say, linear gradient. I could do that, or a radial gradient, but there's some really cool gradients that I found on Behance a while ago, right over here. And if you go to Behance, go to the search section, just look up gradients. There are so many different projects where you can just grab some gradients and then just, you know, download them, drag them into Adobe XD or whatever it might be. So I'm gonna grab, let's say, this gradient, drag it onto the shape. It's gonna highlight in blue, letting me know that it's going to mask it, drop it in place, and I can double click to adjust the mask if I wanted to. Just like this, move this into place. That looks pretty good. I'm kind of liking it, digging it. Now, for the text at the top, I'm gonna actually change this to white because the black text isn't looking that great. There we go. I might want light. And by the way, Chris Cannon, who is you know, joining me at 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock today, for some reason he hates the light text. Don't know why, but let me know in the chat if you like light text or you hate it as well. I like it. It works. I might want to change this to maybe Avenir Next Condensed. Big fan of that. And maybe space this out just a little bit. There we go. Great. So screen time. Next, we're going to change, let's say, the background of this chart. And if it is in a group, here's a pro tip. So you're noticing when I just click on the group, it only selects the entire group, the chart group, and as you can see right here, right? If you want to select individual objects within a group very quickly, hold down your Command or Control key and click, and it'll automatically dive into that group or symbol and select those individual objects. It's a nice little tip. So this one I'm going to change to white maybe decrease the opacity just a little bit so I can see that cool little wave in the background. And then for this text, I'm actually going to choose, let's say, a nice color. So I'm going to use my eyedropper tool. Let's choose a nice color from the background. That looks pretty good. So today's going to be a little bit bold, maybe a little bit darker. A little bit darker. Okay, that looks good. So today's going to be bold to indicate that we are on this screen. Maybe I'll do extra bold. Yeah. And then these two we'll do, yeah, regular looks, maybe semi-bold. Yeah, that looks good. And then we'll increase the opacity just a touch. So it's about 35%. That looks pretty good. Now for this chart, we're going to actually sample another color. Actually, we're going to take, let's use the same color. So I'm going to go into my Today text layer, go to my Assets panel, and press Color, the plus button beside Colors, to add it to my assets. And now if I just simply click on this chart and press that Colors, whoops, I want to right-click because it's a border. I'm going to right-click and apply as a border. There we go. I've got my little chart. And then on the background, I might want a little bit of a shadow so it doesn't blend too much with the white in the background. Let's go for, 10 maybe, and a blur of 10, and then we'll decrease it quite a bit so it's very, very subtle. It's probably hard to see in the stream. Yeah, you probably can't see it at all, but there is a shadow, I promise you. And then down here, we'll have, let's say this will be the same lovely pink. There we go. And then top applications, we'll keep like that. And then this down here, what we might want to do is we might want to create a little bit of a gradient. So I'm going to do linear gradient, make sure to make this horizontally so it's not vertically. And this color will be, let's say, the darker color. And then this one over here to the left will be the lighter color. That's not too bad, not great, but not bad. I can adjust it very easily like that. Grab this one. All right, that's looking okay. And this one in the background, I might want to decrease the gray. There we go. Great, okay. So now down here, we don't want to duplicate this over and over and over again. So we're actually going to use a repeat grid. So I'm going to make sure in my layers panel, make sure that the application group is selected. And then over here to the left, the right, other left, hit that repeat grid button, and that will add these handles as I've shown in previous challenges, and then just drag this down. So we have, let's say, 3 different applications, and I can extend this downwards. And this one, let's say this one will be Instagram, and this one will be Twitter. Looks like my typical day. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be actually adjusting these shapes. Now you'll notice if I grab this one and drag it over, they all change. And that's because it's in a repeat grid. And at the moment, you can't override individual shapes within a repeat grid. So in that case, we're actually going to, now that we've duplicated and created the repeated element, we're going to break it. So we're going to ungroup the grid, and that will allow us to select individual elements and change their shape like this. Great, so we basically have screen number 1 completely complete. And how do we create screen number 2? We're actually going to duplicate this screen over to the left, and I'm doing that by holding down my Alt-Option key and dragging it over. I can also do that by selecting the artboard and Command or Control D to do that. And in this case, this will be week. So I'm going to grab my today and week, and I want to make sure that they basically swap places. So this will be 35%, and it'll be semi-bold, and this one will be extra bold, and 100%. There we go. And let's say on a weekly basis, this changed. Facebook was a lot higher, Instagram was a little lower, and Twitter was quite a bit lower. The time, we'll change this to, let's say, 21 hours and 34 minutes. And then the chart, this is kind of cool. Even though this chart, this line was created in Photoshop, because it's a vector shape, it's still completely editable. So if I double click, find the shape, double click on it, all those points exist. And I can just grab these, drag them anywhere I want, and if I hold down my Shift key, Shift, there we go. It constrains it up and down. So I can move this, let's say this will be down here, move this up a little bit. There we go, move this down, yeah, right there. And we'll move this one up. Looks a bit wonky, but you know, charts never look fun. All right, that would be week. And then we will do one more over to the right for our month. So we'll select week again, change this to regular. Was it right? No, semi-bold, 35%. And month will be 100% extra bold. Whoops. Let's adjust the chart one more time. Move that down, move this one down. And of course, as you're doing this, you might want to add in, maybe on the side of the chart, you might want to add in actual numbers so that the user knows exactly what this chart means. Right now, looking at this probably doesn't mean very much, but you know, that's the kind of the point of these challenges, is to really get your brains moving, get your inspirational little juices. I don't know what I'm saying. I need more coffee. I don't know what I just said. Get your juices flowing. You know, add some extra elements to this chart, add some background blurs and things like that, make it look fancy. So that chart is good. Screen time for the month, let's say, would be 94 hours, 92 hours. That's a lot of screen time. And 2 minutes. And then let's say Facebook would be lower, Instagram would be higher, and Twitter would be higher. Awesome. So now that we have all of our charts complete, we have today, we have week, and we have month, how do we actually make it do something? And that's kind of what XD is really, you know, really helps you with, is taking those designs, those static designs that you may have created in Photoshop, and then bringing them to life. So what we might want to do is go into prototype mode, go have a coffee. I think I need a coffee. And then let's say when someone clicks on the week text layer, I'm going to drag this blue handle over to the week screen. I should probably name these artboards. I'll do that in a second. It's going to be a tap trigger, because that's what we want a user to do. And it's going to be auto animate. And if you're unfamiliar with auto animate, what it's going to do is it's going to take a look at the two artboards that are part of this prototype. And it's going to look at the differences between artboard number 1 and artboard number 2, and it's going to auto animate between the two. And you'll see that in a second. So I'm going to do, let's say, an ease in and out, which will add a little bit of a curve at the beginning and at the end, so it's not perfectly a straight animation. And we'll do, let's say, duration. We'll start 0.8 seconds, and we'll see what that looks like. Now, if I press play at the top, let me move this out of the way, and I press week, it's going to animate. Then what I can do is I can grab today, link it back to this artboard. I can grab month over here, link it over here, and basically link all these things up. Link today, here, and you're noticing it's keeping all the settings from the previous wire. So I don't have to go back and change everything. If I was happy with 0.8, you should have time instead of screen time. I could. Okay, here we go. So we have today, press week, it animates, month, week, and you're noticing because the time change, oh, I do have, oh, okay, I see what you mean. I see, thank you, Mohammed. I have time instead of screen time. See, I need more coffee. Screen time. That feels much better. Thank you. So here we go. Play it one more time. We have today, we have week, month, and the chart just animates, and all the little lines at the bottom, they all animate as well. So there's so much you can do with something like this, and then you can go even further. And let's say we wanted to actually have all of these different charts on each screen, right? So let me move these down here, just to give you some more ideas as you're working. I'm gonna grab this chart down here. Let's name this week chart. I'm actually gonna put this up here, right above here. This one's going to be, let's say, today chart. Make sure to group all these, and whoops. Make sure to group all these, and you'll see why in a second. This will be charts. So the week chart is going to be moved over to the right. And the reason I grouped everything is because if things were not grouped and I moved it over to the right over here, it would pop onto the pasteboard. Don't want that. So I'm going to move that over here. Let me grab the month chart. Paste that in here. Month chart, and then move that all the way over here. Perfect. So now in this situation, if we duplicate this over and someone presses week, let's go to prototype. Let's break this for now. So they go to week. It goes right here. We'll do the same auto animate. And on this artboard, we want to make sure to basically move this entire thing over, just like that. And then we'll have another one. We'll move all these charts over here. Beautiful. And there's month. So now, just like we did before, we can wire this up. So week would go there. Month would go over here to the right. And then we'd have, let's say, week. There we go, over here. Today, over here. You get the idea. Let me just quickly finish this up. Month, boop, and today. Boop. And if we play this, we now have this cool little animation that goes across, and we can slide between the different cards. Then you can even go further than that. You can have a time transition where basically you can have it go to a card, a blank card, and then the charts would kind of animate from there. So there's a lot of different things you can do with something like that. And then you can also go back here. Let me grab these little guys at the bottom, change this like that, and make sure to do this as well, so that these are not moving across the artboard, but they are changing in size. So week, and you're noticing the ones at the bottom are definitely changing. And of course I would have to change the screen time text as well. Was there a shortcut for breaking the prototype link? Oh yes, so all you have to do is, in prototype mode, you have all these, this looks like an octopus or something, but all you have to do, like let's say I wanted to break the week text, I just grab it and just drop it in place. You don't have to delete it, you don't have to do anything, just move it, break it. As long as it's not dragging to a different artboard. And then the final thing I want to point out is global styles. And we've kind of touched on that in the past, but let's say I'm at the point in this project where I'm liking the prototype, but I'm not necessarily liking some of the highlight colors, like the pink. I might want to change it to blue, or I might want to change it to something different, right? So I did add the colors to my assets panel, but let's say I didn't. Let's say it's not there, right? So a lot of people are probably wondering, well, if it's not in the assets panel, how do you change it across your entire document? Well, what's cool about character styles and colors in the assets panel is they can work retroactively. So let's say I wanted to change this pink color, and it's not in my assets panel. I can press the colors plus button beside colors. Now that it's there, XD is going to recognize where else it's on the document. So I can easily right click, press edit, and then make that change. And it's going to change across all of my artboards. You can do the same thing for gradients. So down here, I'm going to select this guy, right click. I can add the colors to assets. I can use the shortcut key, or I can press that plus button. It's going to add the gradient to my assets panel. And just like before, I can make those changes to each color. And even though it wasn't originally in my assets panel, it can easily be done just like that. And all of that updated really nicely, and things are looking quite nice. And the same works with character styles. So let's say I wanted to add this character style here. Right now it's Open Sans. I can select any of them, right click. I might want to do Comic Sans, great font. If you don't like Comic Sans, I don't know you. Oops. There we go. Beautiful. So that's going to do it. We're going to wrap things up. Hopefully, you know, you picked up on some tips and tricks. I'm really looking forward to all of your lovely screen time applications, prototypes, or time, whatever you want to call it. I challenge someone to call it time. This has been fun. Make sure to submit it on Behance using the keyword XD Daily Challenge, and stick around for, in just a few minutes, we've got Daniel White, also known as Dansky, and Andrea Hawk coming up, designing all sorts of cool things. I'll be back at 11 with Chris Cannon, and then Kevin Lee will be back at 1 with Johnny Vino. So stick around and we'll see you all in a few minutes.